nutrition and digestion. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about nutrition and digestion in general. I will touch on it a little bit with each taxonomic group, but talk about it just a little bit in general. So, autotrophs synthesize all their own molecules from simpler ones. So those are going to be your photosynthesizers mostly. Of course, there's some that can take other organic chemicals like deep in the ocean's crust and use those as sources of energies. But for the most part, most of your organisms are using the sun as a source of energy that are going to be autotrophs. Most of the life on Earth are heterotrophs, so they're going to use, they're animals that are consuming other animals or plants for their nutrients. Herbivores are subsisting on plant material. Carnivores are eating only meat. Omnivores are eating either insectivores, which kind of can get grouped under carnivores, but they almost can get their own category. They're eating arthropods. Losses of biosynthetic abilities have been occurred repeatedly over the course of animal evolution. So once an animal obtains molecules that it needs in its diet, then it doesn't have to be able to create them for itself. So it can, in order to create molecules, that's energetically expensive. So if you can get them in another way, then losing that ability is saving calories and energetic loss that you didn't, you can use in other places. That then therefore you can use that energy on other things like reproductive success and survival. Calories are what we measure the value of food that we eat. That's the general way to measure them. You also have to look at micronutrients and macronutrients. Macronutrients are simply things that we need large amounts of, like carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Micronutrients are things we need small quantities of. So those are going to be vitamins and minerals. We have to have them because there are certain metabolic activities that can't take place unless we do. But we just don't have a lot of them. The simplest forms of life, cells have to be taken, food has to be taken in and broken down into intracellular digestion. Extracellular digestion, you break down food using enzymes, but it occurs with an organ or a cavity. Large animals have special organs for digestion. So if digestion is going to occur outside of an animal, then the food particle goes in, nutrition, if things break down here, or if it's going to occur in a gut cavity, then the nutrients get absorbed into the cell. It's just a different way of doing things. There are different ways that animals can actually acquire the food that they need. Some of them are going to be continuous feeders, and they're going to be slow moving, in some cases completely stationary animals. Aquatic suspension feeders like the tube worms, they're going to stay in one place. Barnacles, stay in one place, strain food particles. It's not a really efficient way to get food, so you have to do it a lot, all the time pretty much, and you can't waste energy on moving around. Discontinuous feeders are highly active, mobile, you have to chase down your food. They're going to take in larger meals when they get them, and they have to be ground up or stored. Carnivores a lot of times. Suspension feeding is removal of suspended food particles by some form of capture or trapping. So think of things suspended in a water column, and you have to get them somehow. Deposit feeders are primarily omnivorous. Some snails, polychaete worms, those are things like clamworms. It's difficult to actually come up with an example of a polychaete worm that you're probably familiar with. So these are things that are going to most likely be relatively slow and eat food that's lying around. Omnivores are eating plants. Herbivores, I think I said omnivores, sorry. Herbivores are eating plants. Chances are, if you're eating plants, cellulose is very, very difficult to digest. You probably need something to help you break it down, like a symbiotic bacteria. And in many cases, especially if you're a larger animal, you either have to have a very efficient way to break that stuff down, or you're going to be very sessile, like a sloth. Some cases you actually do have animals that are exclusive fluid feeders, like hummingbirds. Fluids are great sources of nutrients. Hummingbirds are extremely successful in what they do. Invertebrates. Invertebrates are, as a group, highly variable. Part of reason they're highly variable is because they have extremely different eating habits. I can sit here and look at beetles as a group, not even insects, but just beetles as a group, and run the gamut of types of foods eaten and ways to acquire food. And then with different types of foods eaten, that changes your rate of metabolism, as does your body size. So things change a lot. In primitive multicellular animals such as cnidarians, gut is a blind sac called a gastrovascular cavity. The problem with that is it only has one opening. So what that means is that when sea jellies eat, they are taking food in the same place they're letting waste out. So there's one in and one out. Same thing. Which I'm glad I brought that up, because I forget to mention it when you get to sea jellies. You don't see complete digestive systems, and by complete that means an in and an out, until you get to the Schellman's worms. Okay? That was a huge advancement. It means that you can be much more efficient. You don't have to make sure you finish one meal before you can start the next. Okay, you can look at that. Protozoans may be autotrophic, saprozoic, or heterotrophic. So they run the gamut. The ciliated protozoans, and all that means is a protozoan that has cilia on it, are heterotrophic. Mollusks, so you're going in mollusks, you're going from clams to snails, all the way up to octopi. They have all three. You're going from feeding to extracellular digestion and intracellular digestion. All right, I'm going to let you guys look through those. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Insects, complete digestive tract. Why? Because it goes in a mouth, through an esophagus, a crop, gastric ceca, mouth, intestine, rectum, and out of anus. That's it. It has an in and out. Since insects use extracellular digestion and have then life without a complete digestive system wouldn't work. Vertebrates all have complete digestive systems. They do have a tongue or something like a tongue. It helps with food manipulation a great deal. It also helps with judging quality of food. In some cases, like with primates, they actually taste a leaf. Howler monkeys taste leaves to judge how much toxins are in them before they consume them. So tongues can be incredibly important. Tongues can also be used in food capture. This is a lamprey. They use their tongue, which is this nasty little thing here. Lamprey cling to the side of they're parasitic, by the way. Lamprey cling to the side of a bony fish and rasp away a hole into the bony fish and then suck them dry. And that's what they eat. This is a fish tongue. And this is a chameleon nailing dinner. Woodpecker. Tongue. Tongue of a woodpecker is actually wrapped all the way back around the back of their skull because it has to be long. Teeth reflect nature and diet of vertebrates, and they're, of course, flat if you're an herbivore, sharp if you're a carnivore, and if you're an omnivore, you have to have both. So you can do all these things, tearing, ripping, chiseling, grinding. So if you look at a horse who has nice flat teeth, the carnivore who has nice sharp teeth, and look at yourself if you want to see an omnivore. If you look at specific kinds of teeth, molars are generally used a lot more for chewing. Premolars can do the same. And then canines and incisors frequently adapted for shredding and tearing. That's a carnivore, by the way. You could tell because the premolars are sharper than ours are, at least. Okay, salivary glands are specialized exocrine glands. They start digestion. The esophagus moves food to the stomach. It's really just a way to transport food to your stomach. Stomach can start digestion, but it can also just hold food. Gizzards, when present, are used for grinding up food. In some cases, birds, like in birds, they'll swallow like pebbles to help them grind food in their gizzard. Ruminants, who are plant eaters, so they have the issue of digesting cellulose. They have bacteria that live in their rumen, and here's their rumen. This is why it said that cows have a four-chambered stomach. So the bacteria live in the rumen. They digest the cellulose for them, but what happens, the rumen is located before the stomach. So the cow chews up its food, swallows it, it goes into the rumen, gets digested by the bacteria, some, is regurgitated as cud. This is why a cow chews its cud, and then goes back into, gets chewed a little more, goes back into the rumen, and then finish its travel. Livers and gallbladders assist. They're not digestive organs, they assist. Pancreas does send digestive fluids into intestine. Configurations and divisions of small and large intestines vary greatly. The reason for that is it depends on what you eat. The entire length of your digestive system depends upon what you eat. If you're a carnivore, it's short. Why? Because you're digesting what you are composed of. Therefore, there's little digestion to be done. If you are an herbivore, you have a very long digestive system because there's much digestion to be done. Cecum. Oh, cecum. I need to point out the cecum. Does a very similar job to the rumen, but it's after the stomach. Okay. So when the digestion happens, you ingest, peristalsis happens. So peristalsis is moving food along. Segmentation is mixing the food. So peristalsis is squeezing and moving food through. Segmentation is just squishing it and mixing it. Okay. Then we have secretion of some digestive enzymes, digestion, absorption of the nutrients, and defecation. We do have major organs given, coordination, contractions of the muscle layers, mix the food. I just said all that. Done. Okay. These are the major organs. This is what that looks like. Within the intestinal lining, you have, stomach is coated with mucus, by the way, so that it doesn't get digested. That's what I was supposed to say there. Most digestion occurs in the duodenum. That's part of the small intestine. And most of the absorption happens in the jejunum and the ileum. That's for humans, okay? Most of those are consistent, but you will have some different anatomy according to species. Within the intestines, you will find lots and lots of little villi and microvilli. That increases surface area for absorption. Here they are, as an actual photo. Here is just a table out of your textbook. You can look at it in detail later. These are, I mentioned the liver as an accessory organ, so this is what purposes it serves. Finally, the large intestine, it does not digest, nor does it absorb nutrients. It resorbs water, so it takes back water that's been used for digestion that it can. It packages whatever's left over, whatever waste needs to be packaged and can be disposed, and then it also houses microorganisms.